Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Recovery Talk. This week, I am joined by the lovely Alix Walker, who is a recovery coach and counselor with her own lived experience recovering from an eating disorder. We are going to discuss a variety of topics, from hurdles accessing treatment to the whole not feeling sick enough thing that so many people in recovery experience, to body image healing, managing social media and triggers when in recovery, and so much more. I hope you'll enjoy this episode. Let's get into it. Hi, Alix. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
All right. So do you maybe want to start with sharing a bit about yourself, how you got into this line of work?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm an eating disorder counsellor and coach. I think getting into this line of work for me, I just really wanted to be the person that I didn't have during my whole recovery. So when I was going through recovery, Instagram wasn't really a place where you could go and find any kind of support. Therapists weren't really people that had lived experience, and doctors and GPs, they still aren't the best, but they definitely didn't understand and couldn't provide the right support when I was going through my eating disorder or recovery. So I just really used that as a motivation to be able to do that for someone else, even if it was just one person. I didn't know in what capacity. I just knew that that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah. I love that, of kind of being the person that you needed at some point.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I think it's nice now when even one person is like, you've really helped me with this. And I was like, yeah, that's not, the experience I had. So yeah, I'm really grateful that I get to do this and help other people.
Mm-hmm. What do you hear that people say that their challenges are navigating treatment and navigating the system?
I think it's just not being validated. They're going to appointments and doctors are weighing them and just going off of that purely, their blood test results, they're coming back fine. They're at a weight that maybe the doctors aren't massively worried about. And then they're being told to kind of just go home and try and, if they're worried, seek support themselves. But a lot of people can't obviously afford private support. It's expensive. And if you are going to a doctor and you are, in a place where they're worried about your weight and they kind of pop you on a waiting list, you'll still wait in a year or so. And in that time, we know what can unfold and happen.
Mm-hmm. And you had posted a picture holding like a sign that said, "Sorry about your eating disorder. Here's a leaflet and a wait list."
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's true. And I guess my inboxes are mostly filled with parents or partners that are like, we don't know what to do. Doctors do not care. They don't want to help us. And I'm worried that this is going downhill really fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's scary.
It's so scary, and it's so dangerous because the eating disorder feeds off of that. The eating disorder just loves to invalidate and be like, well, I'm controlling your life, but also I'm not really here. So people never feel sick enough. And this is what I see, that it doesn't actually matter how low someone's weight is, how little they're eating, or whatever other measure you use. People never feel really sick enough. The eating disorder always is like, oh no, you could go a little bit further, right?
Right. And mentally, you could be at your sickest and your weight could be absolutely fine. Your blood results could all be great. And I remember sitting in the doctor and actually at this point had almost convinced myself to go, but a bit like, I'm fine, but I'll go anyway, kind of that stage of wanting support. And them saying to me, well, when you get to X weight, then we'll look at options. And me being like, that's my new goalpost.
Exactly the same thing happened to me as well. I went to the doctor and at this point, I was actually significantly underweight. But the doctor was like, oh, so your family's worried about your weight. Okay, well, just make sure you don't get anorexia or anything. With my family having forced me there because of anorexia. And then, don't go under this weight. And of course, it became a new goal weight, right? One thing is feeling like a doctor or the medical system is not helping. Another thing is actually feeling like it makes you worse than if you didn't do anything to begin with, right? I think that's
Right.
really, really scary.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think for me, what I see with clients a lot as well is we're doing like great work and they're challenging themselves and everything's going in a really good direction. And then they'll join a call and they'll be like, I've had the worst week ever. I went to this appointment, the doctor said this, and now I feel like I can't cope. They've started using behaviors again, their thoughts are getting negative again. And I'm like, brilliant, that's fantastic. All the hard work they've done. And now they're going to feel this way because of something a doctor has said.
Yeah. It's so sad, and I think it can sometimes create medical avoidance as a response. So then when people should see a doctor, they feel too scared and hesitant to actually go see them because they've had so many bad experiences. And I want to make it very clear that I'm by no means suggesting not seeing a doctor about your eating disorder. Please do seek out medical help. But if you have the opportunity to seek out more specialized support, so someone who is familiar with eating disorders, specialized in eating disorders, please do that. Because typically a doctor won't really receive that much training in eating disorders. There are some doctors that are, maybe not super trained in it, but they are really skilled with eating disorders. They know how to hear and see their patients. But in general, if you have the chance to get specialized support, please do get that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of the time I feel like I'm almost talking, I was going to swear, shit, I don't know what to use, talking shit about doctors, but I'm not saying all doctors and all healthcare professionals, because I know lots of clients that have been to the doctor and the doctor has spent extra time with them, gave them options and referred them, really, taken their time to look after them. But there's definitely more negative than positive. And also just the system in general is really messed up.
100%. 100%. So there are some really good people in the system, but there are systemic issues with the lack of training and awareness about eating disorders. A lot of doctors operate based pretty much on stereotypes, right? Like how they think an eating disorder should look like and present. And sometimes even when it presents as the stereotype, like my case presented very stereotypical, right? Low weight, young female, white, all of those like stereotypes of who eating disorders affect. I was that stereotype, and even I was dismissed.
Absolutely. I think that's, we're sitting here as like young white women that were skinny, going to the doctor saying we have an eating disorder. So we can't relate to, other people that are going there that don't fit that really small stereotype. And it was difficult for us. So trying to imagine how difficult it is for other people is scary.
100%. 100%. Do you want to share maybe a bit about your own recovery and what you found to be the most important or like the most helpful things you did in your recovery, especially to get out of, that like quasi space that a lot of people are in, where they're kind of halfway there but not fully there? What was the final steps you had to go when you were in your own recovery?
I think for me, one of the most important things was, because I think for a lot of us, we're really wrapped up with this idea of the perfect recovery. And especially now with social media, you see what everyone else is doing and it's very easy to fall into that. And I think for me, learning that recovery is really, really messy. It is lots and lots of doubt, question yourself, crying, feeling anxious. It is the whole shebang. It is tough and it isn't really neat and tidy. And I think when I accepted that, it became a lot easier, because I'd have one bad day and then I would just spiral. I'd feel really bad, already sitting with a lot of, issues with self-worth, and then I would beat myself up and I'd think, what's the point? I may as well not bother. It's easier to have an eating disorder than to go through this. And I think learning that that's just part of it, because no one tells you that. Well, no one told me that. I was just kind of going through it blind. So learning that it's okay for it to look really messy really, really helped me. And I think it was a big push for me to get to where I am today.
Yeah. I think this is an area where so many people are stuck, where they get hung up in the perfect recovery. And don't get me wrong, it's of course good to want to do things well and be like, yeah, I'm going to properly go for it, you know? But what I see more often is that people just end up stuck in analysis paralysis where nothing happens. And then if they have one bad day, one bad moment, they think, well, I blew it. Now I'm back to scratch, and just doesn't really get forward that way. So letting go of the idea of the perfect recovery and accepting and actually embracing that's going to be messy, because that's how you learn, right? Even if there was a perfect recovery, that wouldn't be good. You want to embrace the messiness of it.
Yeah, because life outside of recovery is messy and hard, and things come up, and we have to learn not to rely on our eating disorder and rely on bad coping mechanisms. So it's kind of a good general rule to be able to sit in the messiness and feel comfortable.
100%. What would you feel is the most important things that your recovery has given you?
Just life in general, freedom. It has just, I think, day-to-day things that you don't even realise, like waking up on a Sunday morning, coming downstairs, having breakfast, not thinking about it, going upstairs, getting dressed, not looking in the mirror and completely ripping myself apart, being able to just spend time with family and friends and be present, just little moments throughout the day where you're just living your life without the eating disorder gripping hold of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And bigger boobs.
Oh, yeah. That's a nice bonus as well.
Yeah, it's a good plus.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of times people don't realize how heavy it is to constantly have that background noise of an eating disorder. Like it's always just there in the background. And then when you recover and that background noise goes away, it's such a relief. And you oftentimes don't notice it until you're there. And I think it's an important thing to tell people, because sometimes people are like, well, recovery is so hard. Why am I doing this? For what? And it's actually remembering that there are so many good and beautiful things on the other side, including bigger boobs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest question I get from my clients is, will that internal voice ever go away? Will it always be there? And I just say, well, I don't have it. So that's all I can kind of go off. And I've got clients that no longer have it, that have, now left and are living their lives. It's, I think, the most impossible thing to imagine when you're in it, that you will not have that constant narrative. But I mean, we're kind of living proof that there is a possibility that it can happen.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think it's so sad because I often hear narratives, sometimes from professionals and in recovery spaces, that it never really goes away. It's always going to be there. And I'm a bit like, I mean, not for me though, and not for a lot of other people. So I think it's so sad because if you're constantly being told that it's always going to be there, that's not really very encouraging for recovery. Well, it's always going to be there. What's the point of trying? So actually saying that, hey, you know what? It is actually possible to not have that voice. Of course, we can't talk on behalf of everyone else and how recovery looks like for different people. But the idea that an eating disorder is always a chronic condition that you never get out of once you have it, I think is just so unhelpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's definitely still being said to people that you've kind of got this diagnosis and that is just how you're going to be for the rest of your life. How are you supposed to feel motivated to recover if that's what you're being told?
Mm-hmm. One area where a lot of people are stuck in recovery is body image and dealing with the body changes. And I would love to hear a bit your experience, both from going through your own recovery and from the work you're doing with clients. What are the things that are the most helpful when someone really struggles with their body image and oftentimes feel, well, I feel bad about my body now, so what if I gain more weight?
Right. And I think realizing as just the number one thing, that it probably has absolutely nothing to do with your body. And I think for me, I found that really helpful because it was about control and it was safety and it was all of that side of things, just really low self-esteem in general. And all of this stuff, I was just taking it out on my body, but my body wasn't the problem. And actually now I sit here at the same weight and in the same body as before my eating disorder, and I went through all of that and hated it, and now I just sit here in this body and I don't really feel anything about it. I kind of like it. it's okay. Like, I think also learning that you're not going to look in the mirror every day and think, oh my God, I look like a supermodel. I love myself. This is great. Just very neutral feelings is also the goal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if the body is not the problem, then taking it out on the body is not going to solve anything.
Right. And it probably hasn't worked for whoever's listening to this. It probably hasn't worked for you so far, and it's not made you feel any better about your body so far. So that's pretty good evidence that that's not what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Even if you don't necessarily believe that it's possible to feel better about your body, at least know that, well, you've tried everything else. You've tried, beating yourself up and taking it out on your body. Why not try something different? Even if you don't fully believe that it even is possible, why not give it a try?
Right. And I mean, this might be a bit controversial, but I'm not really someone that tells my clients to look in the mirror and say that you love what you're seeing and do all of the affirmations and stuff, because it's not worked with a lot of people that I've spoken to, and it didn't work with me because I didn't believe it, and I didn't believe it the more I kept saying it. And for me, recovery, to be honest, with my body changing, just looked like baggy, comfortable clothes, going to therapy and trying to believe that when my mind is healed, I won't feel as shit as I do about my body image. And it worked.
I agree with you on that. Different thing works for different people.
Yeah.
But when you are at a point of intense body distress, and oftentimes there's a level of body dysmorphia as well, it's going to be pretty hard to be like, well, I'll just look myself in the mirror and then I'll feel good. A lot of times that can turn into more body checking, and it's just like accepting your body, and sometimes accepting feeling like shit about your body in recovery, that is a natural, normal part of the process. I think it's very important as well, because if you set the bar at, well, I have to feel so good about my body, it's just going to feel like you're failing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a question I ask a lot of my clients is, do you genuinely feel this way about your body, or could you have learned it from somewhere else? Because a lot of the times, a client will be saying, well, I feel like I shouldn't, do this or do that. And I'm like, well, where did you hear that? Oh, my mum says it, or like a teacher said it to me, or a doctor. It's like, okay, but what do you think? What do you feel about the way your body looks or certain parts of your body? Obviously, with social media and the media in general, you do see we're obviously taking in a lot of stuff, even if it's subconsciously. But also there are people around us that say things that stick with us.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think so many times I see people where they were told something, oftentimes at like a very vulnerable state in their life or at a very vulnerable age where they were quite receptive. And they're told something, oftentimes it's even like an innocent comment from a family member, or like you said, like a teacher or a friend, and it just sticks with them. And that one comment that person probably don't even remember having ever made just becomes something that shapes the rest of your life. And I think this is why it's so important to kind of sometimes go back a bit and be like, yeah, what makes you believe that, your body is not good enough? Where did those beliefs come from? And are they no longer serving you right now?
Right. And, like you say, a boy at school when I was like 13 called me fat. I don't even remember his name, but he completely ruined my self-esteem. And it's like, I'm giving this person all this power. I genuinely don't even remember his name, but I remember the comment like it was yesterday.
Mm-hmm, exactly. That can be a good motivator as well. Don't let those people have that power over you, especially if it is someone that maybe you don't like. Imagine, for example, you've been bullied. Don't let those people hold that power over you for the rest of your life, because they're not going to remember making the comment. They're living their best lives. Like, why can't you as well?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned social media there. So what did you have to do in terms of social media when you were going through recovery? And what do you typically find with clients that they find the most helpful in terms of navigating social media when in recovery?
This is going to sound really old, but no one really used Instagram when I was in recovery. It wasn't really a thing. So I didn't actually have that issue. Instagram was probably a thing, but no one really used it. There was a couple of accounts towards the end of my recovery where people would post like photos of their food and they were in recovery, but it was nothing like it is now, where you can find all the information and, positivity or whatever that you need. So is it Tumblr?
Tumblr, yeah. Oh my goodness, I remember the Tumblr days.
That's what was going on, when I was in recovery. So I had that side of things to contend with. It was a bit of a different vibe, but yeah, no Instagram really. So I feel my opinions on social media is a bit mixed, because for me, for work, for everything that I do, social media is amazing. For my clients, I'm just going off of, from like a professional point of view, the stuff that I hear about social media in sessions day to day is always negative. It's always, I saw this and it really triggered me, or I get sent videos from clients like, I don't know how to feel about this. Is this true? This person's eating this much. Should I do this? Like, that's what side of it I see from clients. So my thoughts on it are very mixed. I think it's a very tricky space.
It's difficult because I would say 90% of it is really triggering. And then there is that like 10% where someone do come across a very helpful piece of information, or maybe they see an influencer that they actually feel like they really can relate to, right? There are those positive moments, but I typically see the same pattern with my own clients where the majority of it is harm. And I think in most cases, social media, the harm outweigh the good. And it's not necessarily that someone has to avoid social media for the rest of their lives, but when you are in a vulnerable space in recovery, I tend to encourage people to take a bit of a step back, even sometimes from recovery spaces, because the algorithm, if you are in recovery spaces, the algorithm will tend to send you content related to more like fitness or weight loss. It's kind of like a bit of an overlapping algorithm. And or it may send you people who are in recovery but not recovery, where they're posting outfit of the day, but it's just a body check, or what I eat in a day, and it's something really triggering. So even content that is supposed to be recovery promoting can also be incredibly triggering. And I think sometimes that kind of content could maybe even be more triggering, because if it's something that's just so obviously like, I don't know, so obviously out there,
Right.
like it can sometimes be easier to identify, oh, this is really toxic diet culture content. But if it is kind of coming from the place of recovery, like, oh yeah, I actually healed my anorexia by becoming a bodybuilder, you'd be like, oh, okay, maybe I should do that as well, because I'm also in recovery, right?
Yeah. And I think there is a massive online fitness space for people that are recovered and are jogging 100 miles a day. And, that's probably the thing I hear most from clients is, well, maybe if I get into running, it will be good for me. It'll be good for me mentally and I can recover. And I just don't feel, my personal opinion is that you shouldn't be engaging in exercise until you can be 100% sure that you're not doing it for the wrong reasons. And then if you are fully recovered and you think, do you know what? I love jogging. Cool. But I think just while you're going through the process, best to not be engaging in hardcore exercise or exercise in general.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think there also is a tendency for people with eating disorders and recovery to take that exercise a bit more seriously than most people would. So it's not just, oh, I'm going to start going to the gym. It's like, oh, I'm going to become a fitness person, right? Oh, it's not just that I'm going to start running a bit here and there. It's that I'm going to be a runner and I'm going to track it, log it. I'm going to optimize my life around the running. And it just becomes going essentially from one obsession to another, but going to one that is more socially reinforced and accepted, and one you may even be applauded for. But if it's still coming from a place of anxiety, of trying to control your weight or deal with guilt around food, you kind of just building yourself another prison, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And, if I get a client that says, oh, I think I might take up swimming, I think mentally it's going to be really helpful, then I'll just kind of say to them, would you be doing that still if it wasn't going to change your body at all? And see what their answer is from that, because I think that's a pretty good, give you a pretty good idea of what their reasons are behind it. But we can't obviously sit here and say that person on Instagram that jogs 20 miles a day and only eats strawberries for breakfast before their 20-mile run is recovered or isn't recovered. But I definitely think if I was in recovery and was looking at that, it would definitely bring up feelings for me. That isn't that person's responsibility. That's totally on me. And I need to look at why I'm being triggered by that. But it's still harmful for, people to see.
100%. 100%. Social media in general, I also think outside of recovery spaces as well, it brings up so much comparison because you're getting everyone's highlight reel. And typically, so many people may have one area in their life where they're doing really well. So maybe you have one friend that's doing really well in their career and another one that has a really nice relationship with their partner. So everyone shows off the area they do the best in. You kind of start ending up comparing yourself to everyone's best side in a way. So I think even for people without eating disorders, constantly seeing everyone's highlight reel that way, I also am not sure that necessarily is super helpful.
No. And I think we're probably all guilty of it. You know, you post a photo. If I was out for dinner, for example, I can quickly post a photo of my meal, but I could have been sitting there the whole time arguing with my boyfriend. The food could have tasted rubbish and I could have not eaten the whole dinner. I could have just had the worst day ever, whatever it is. But that one picture goes up and that's all everyone sees. So it's fake. It's not real.
Mm-hmm. Reminds me of something that happened to me a few years ago. It was a friend of a friend. And I just thought, wow, she seems to have such a cool life. I thought, I was like, whoa, wow, she seems to be having a great time. And I remember talking with our mutual friend, and the mutual friend told me, oh, hey, so I have to like support. This was the person, because she's really going through a difficult time with like her relationship, with her self-image, with everything. And I was just like, oh, okay, this is the person that I was looking at. We're like, oh my God, she looks like she's having such a great time. Like, ooh, right? So it's like, you never really know.
No, definitely not. And I know that I'm guilty of in the past posting things when I'm having a really bad day, or just reposting old photos on a day where I'm lying in bed not doing anything because I don't want to post. And like, we've all done it, we all do it. It's not good. But I mean, there's a difference between obviously posting like highly edited photos of your body or things like that than just a quick story or whatever.
Of course. I think we've all been guilty of it. And I also don't necessarily think that anyone owes their audience vulnerability. I think it's completely fine to have privacy, right? If someone has a fight with their partner, they don't owe the internet to let them know. I don't think that is always healthy either, because I sometimes see there's been a counter reaction to the overly polished social media where people maybe, it's going to say overshare, but I think it's fine to share, but they feel like they have to completely expose everything going on in their brain or they're not authentic. And I don't necessarily know if that's helpful either.
Right. I think just with whatever anyone's posting, it is just a comparison side of things. Yeah. And I think, I mean, of like what I eat in a day videos, for example, they are the bane of my life. Like my clients, I get sent videos all the time. Should I be eating this much? You know, they're in extreme hunger and they've eaten this much. I eat more than them, I eat less than them, just constantly. And I just think that you just don't need to share what you're eating in a day online. Because I just think we'd all be better off without it. We don't need it.
100%. Because the eating disorder also is going to be so selective. So if you are going through extreme hunger and you are following people, and there might be like 10 people who are posting what I eat in a day, and they're eating way more than you, but then there might be one person that's posting that they're eating less, and then your eating disorder is going to latch onto that, right? So your eating disorder is so selectively filtered as well.
I always say to my clients, if they've got time to post what I eat in a day with extreme hunger, then they're probably not, eating to the full limit. Because I had no time to post videos on social media when I was going through extreme hunger.
Exactly. And going through extreme hunger, like the eating typically, it's going to be quite chaotic and messy. You're probably not even going to have like focus, like, oh wait, I need to like film or take picture of this. You're going to eat it before realizing, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So that's kind of my go-to answer.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, full disclosure, I've been a little bit terminally offline, but I have heard rumors that there is a little bit of a re-emergence of what they call skinny talk, which slightly is similar to the Tumblr pro-Ana days, but a bit more polished, a bit more in the name of health, whilst like the Tumblr pro-Ana was very much like, yeah, you're trying to die. That's the point, right? It's very like upfront about being toxic, while skinny talk is a bit more kind of rationalizes a little bit more. Is this something you see come up a lot with clients?
Yeah, and I think since weight loss injections have blown up, that a lot of the body positive influencers that my clients were following are losing weight. And for whatever reason, whether it's, they are just, I don't know, whatever. And I think it's something that, I mean, I don't see it on my TikTok personally. Mine's like dog videos and things like that. But obviously, if you're looking at recovery stuff and food stuff or exercise stuff or whatever, you're going to see certain types of bodies. And yeah, I think it's getting worse. And I think from what I've heard, even when you put like the blocks on to say that you don't want to view that content, it doesn't necessarily work great. But also, I mean, we're all guilty when we're in our eating disorder and recovery of seeking it out and looking for it as well, which I know that some of my clients do that too. It's not just always on their feed. They are sometimes typing it in and looking for stuff, because you're eating disorder, when you feel shitty, you go looking for stuff that's going to help you do that.
Exactly. And when you're engaging with it, even if you're not necessarily like and follow, but even if you're just watching it, even if you're just watching it so that you can report it or so that you can write an angry comment like, hey, this is toxic, the algorithm is detecting that you're interested and is giving you more of it. So the tips that I typically give people is just scroll past it as fast as you can. Don't even give it a second to check, oh, what kind of content is this? Just quick scroll. And instead, when using social media, focus on things that are completely even non-recovery related. So if you're really interested in dogs or home renovation and you get that video on your Explore page or For You page or whatever it is, then even if you're not super interested in that specific dog video, watch it a little bit longer just so you signal to the algorithm that that's the type of content you want, right? You have to be so strict with yourself with scrolling past that content, because some people think that giving it like negative energy is going to be the help. That, oh yeah, if I just get really amped up about it, that can sometimes give it more energy and kind of backfire a bit in a way.
Right. And I think that if I had had TikTok when I was in recovery, it would have been a completely different experience, because I'm not the biggest fan of TikTok in general, because I think whether a client of mine's just got OCD, anxiety, whatever it may be, they're seeing stuff that's just amplifying that for them. You know, it's everything you see on their news related, for example, is like scary stuff that's happening around the world. So for my clients with anxiety, you know, that's going on. And then the eating disorder stuff it's just a lot all the time, and you're flicking so fast. That isn't good for your mental health anyway, just watching videos like that. So I say to my clients, you know, maybe try, but I understand we're chronically kind of on our phones and we don't necessarily want to delete TikTok. And I think a lot of us can't delete social media. It's hard. We're like addicted to it, right? So I understand when I'm saying to my clients, maybe take a break. They're probably thinking, that's not going to happen, but I advise it at least. I'm like, maybe give it a go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't think our brains was meant to absorb this much information, this many different opinions all the time. And also people who do typically take a bit of a step back from social media, even if it's just reducing the amount of time that they're spending, or it may be cutting out the worst offending apps. So for example, TikTok, that kind of encourages endless scrolling. People who do take that step back, they typically don't regret it. People are typically not like, well, I wish I had spent more time on social media. I wish I had spent more time doom scrolling. No.
It's, I mean, even for me, I mean, I'm fully recovered. My mental health is good. But if I go on TikTok and see something about like something scary that's happened in the news, for example, I can feel myself feel like that. If I then have to go and get a train somewhere or go into London, I feel more anxious if I've seen like something scary that happened in London. I can feel that in myself. So I never come off TikTok and feel better about my life and what's going on.
Exactly. Interrupt the doom scrolling with actually taking a moment to be like, hey, how do I feel now? How is this making me feel? And 9 out of 10 times it is not so good.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. And I'm someone that's trying to do other things like a puzzle or other things that just like baking, things that aren't being on my phone. And it's so difficult. You don't realize until you try and pull yourself away how reliant we are.
100%. I mean, it also kind of rewires our attention span a bit. So you get so used to that constant quick hits of dopamine in a way. So then when you do things that require a bit more effort, that maybe aren't so instantly stimulating as scrolling TikTok, you may find that you get more easily bored.
Yeah.
Because maybe someone loves to do puzzles, but then if they spend a lot of time on their phone, puzzling doesn't become as rewarding anymore. I think that's another thing, like it genuinely rewires your brain, and not in the way that you want it to be rewired.
No, absolutely. I think you mentioned kind of the skinny talk, and I know I've kind of taken you on a different road, but I think for most people that are in recovery with skinny talk or anything that's going on social media with people losing weight, weight loss injections, people just promoting restriction, whatever it may be, I think the best thing to just remember is you do not know the full picture of what is going on in that person's life, because that person may also have a severe eating disorder. They may feel really, really bad about themselves in general. We have no idea. And this is like a bit off topic and personal, but my dad recently has lost an extreme amount of weight, and it's because he's really poorly. And everyone is like, oh my God, you look so good. Can't believe how much better you look. Like he was a bigger guy, and he always has been. So now he doesn't look super sick, but he's lost a lot of weight. And he's so poorly in hospital constantly. And all everyone keeps saying is how good he looks, how great it is that he's lost all this weight. And I'm just like, you never know what is going on with someone. So just as a general rule, let's not comment on anyone's weight at all.
So sorry to hear that. And it's just so twisted, that assumption that weight loss is inherently good and healthy, when you never know what it may represent for that person.
Yeah.
And I think the eating disorder will always try and justify weight loss. It will justify engaging in restrictive behaviors, right? So if it sees someone else doing it, if they see an influencer, but again, like you said, like you never know what they're going through. And even if someone is losing weight and that's what they want to do or whatever, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the safe choice for you if you're in eating disorder recovery. So I think that's just a very important thing to remember, that it doesn't matter why other people are doing it. It doesn't make it necessarily the option for you. Where would it take you realistically, right?
Yeah. And I think focusing on yourself and your own recovery. And I think for me, I really disconnected myself from the outside world during my recovery, and whether that's good or bad, like I was quite isolated, but I do think it kind of helped me because I didn't have any outside voices apart from family and close friends. I didn't really go on social media. I didn't go to work. So I think that really helped me, to be honest. So the people that are still on social media and going to work and seeing people and going out, like it is going to be a bit harder. You're going to come up against more triggers. And it's just kind of navigating that and making sure that you're not reacting to it in a negative way. You can hear it, you can listen to it, but it's how you respond that's
Yeah, 100%. That's an interesting one. I had actually the complete opposite experience, where I went to school. I mean, I was in adjusted education, but I went to school, and I found that to be so helpful because it took me out of my own head, it took me away from screens a little bit as well. Like it gave me other things to focus on, but I was also in an environment that wasn't overly triggering and overly diety. I think this is another thing. Sometimes people with eating disorders may end up building a lot of community and connection around things like movement. Maybe most of their social life happens in the gym, and then that becomes your identity and your way of socializing. And it actually is okay to be like, maybe that's not the environment for me, and that's okay.
Yeah. And I understand for a lot of people, like I've got clients that work in an office and they have to work, they have to afford to live, and they work with a bunch of people that are talking about dieting and, oh, I shouldn't eat that naughty snack and things like that. And I understand you can't leave, you need to work, you need to pay your bills. And it's so tricky, but it is, I mean, boundaries are obviously so important. I'm quite mouthy. So through recovery, I would just say to someone, don't talk to me about body, food. I don't want to hear it. And if they would continue, I would be like blunt. And not everyone's like that. I understand for some people, boundaries are hard. So it's just finding what works for you. You can be super polite and put boundaries in place, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I also think that most people, they want, like, I don't know, maybe I'm just positively biased towards other people. Maybe I'm a bit naive, I don't know, but I tend to believe the good in people. I believe that people want you to do well in your recovery, but they just don't know. They don't quite get it. So saying something like, hey, so just letting you know, I'm working on my relationship with food and body. You don't always have to say eating disorder, because that sometimes can feel very personal for people to say, but even saying like, hey, I'm working a bit on my relationship with food and body. And as a result, I'm just trying to avoid conversations where there's a lot of focus on weight loss, etc., etc. So I would just really appreciate if maybe couldn't have those conversations around me. And if they happen, I may just have to take a bit of a step back. Most people would actually handle that okay.
Yeah, definitely. I think, there's obviously people that I always say to my clients, the person in the office, the woman that's is scared to eat the bit of cake, she probably has her own issues with her body image and stuff like that. So take it with a pinch of salt, because she's probably been dieting for years, never found anything that's made her feel good about herself in regards to her own, relationship with food and body image. So probably just try and take it really on the shoulder.
Exactly. And asking yourself, do you want to end up like that? Do you want to be that person that is always just a little bit like, oh, we should go on the diet? Because it's not really, to me, it doesn't look like a tempting way to live.
No, I want the cake.
I want the cake. All right. Thank you so much for joining. Maybe you want to share a bit where people can find you.
The best place to find me will be Instagram, Counselling with Alix. And then if you click the link in the bio, if you want to work together, you'll find all the information in there.
All right. So I will add all of that in the episode description below.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I have left a link to Alix's socials and website below. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next episode. I am releasing pretty consistently every second weeks now, and I have several very exciting topics and guests lined up, if I may say so myself. Wishing you a good week ahead. Keep fighting the good fight.